Y'all, it's that time again. Hunter x Hunter chapter 403 is here, so let's dive into it. All right, so the chapter begins, and we're told that it's the 11th day at 6:45 in the morning. And this is important because it means this is a flashback. Because if you'll recall, in chapter 402, it was also the events of the 11th day. And we saw things that happened way past 6:45 in the morning. If you recall, the chapter was mostly about Melody, Kacho, and Kaiser devising this plan to get Kacho to go deliver the letters to all of the other princes. So chapter 403 starts with a flashback, and we are finding out what Balsam was up to during the morning. So we see him making his way to Tier 2, the Justice Bureau, where not only Melody, Kacho, and Kaiser are, but if you'll recall, also Prince Hulkenberg. So he's making his way, and we are privy to his internal thoughts. He thinks that none of Hulkenberg's soldiers should be around the courtroom because his personal guards are either being monitored in the VIP area or they've been dispersed to the lower tiers. So he should have no allies left in order to activate his ability, meaning he'll have no means of escape during the cross-examination. His demise should be 100% certain. The judge and the defense lawyer are also at risk of infection, although their distance reduces it to being below 2% chance. This being a closed court case means the chances of a pandemic are extremely low, but if it did happen, we'll contain it using martial law. So if you'll recall, this is all in reference to Balsam having planned a chemical weapon attack to use on Hulkenberg. We saw him prepare this in chapter 402. So Balsam is walking down a hallway when all of a sudden he feels something behind him. So he turns to look and he sees Vict, who is another one of First Prince Benjamin's soldiers. However, if you recall, several chapters back, there was a rumbling of Nin and a distressed radio call from Vict where something happened to him, and we felt one of those rumblings of Nin. So this is in fact not Vict, it's actually one of Prince Hulkenberg's men who body swapped into Vict several chapters ago. And Vict is not saying anything except he starts moving his hands and he's using sign language. And Balsam thinks to himself, that's military sign language. Are they blocking verbal communications? And then it clicks for him. He realizes the secret to Hulkenberg's ability. All right, forgive me for the Microsoft Paint jump scare, but we've got some galaxy brain stuff about to happen, so I wanted to create a diagram to help explain it. So we've got B here, which represents Balsam. He's walking down this hallway, and Vict just appeared behind him, which is actually one of Hulkenberg's men in Vic's body, and Vict has just started doing some sign language. At the end of this hallway, there are three people, a man and a woman talking, and a guy sitting down working on a laptop computer. Now, Vic's sign language is actually a signal to the guy working on the computer, who starts tapping away at the keys. And I believe this tapping is actually Morse code, which is signaling Hulkenberg, who is over here, that Balsam cannot see, and Hulkenberg cannot see Balsam, and he's also surrounded by a bunch of allies whom aura he is using to activate his ability. And this Morse code is actually relaying Balsam positioning, his exact positioning. So Hulkenberg is thinking to himself, all right, he's 11.9 meters from the two of them, meaning this couple that he can see. 25 meters ahead and then 11.9 meters to the right. We then see Prince Hulkenberg ready to fire his arrow, and he thinks to himself, well, to amend the 26-degree disparity brought by firing the arrow, I need to step exactly 60 centimeters forward. And then he fires the arrow. So looks like our video talking about this behind-the-scenes attempt last chapter ended up looking pretty good. So if you're not already following or subscribing, what are you doing? Get ahead of the game. So then before we find out what happens with this arrow shot, we cut away to Prince Benjamin's room where he is on the phone and he's asking somebody, hasn't the trial started yet? And the voice on the other end says, no, both parties requested to reschedule. And he goes, both? For what reason? And the voice says, the plaintiff cited a lack of preparation due to equipment trouble, which was rejected by the judge. However, the defendant's request, citing the defendant's ill health, was accepted, and the trial will commence once they recover. And Benjamin thinks to himself, what is going on? Does equipment trouble mean the mission was aborted? But Hulkenberg's ability already activated. We felt the Nim rumbling. But the timing, Balsam must be the target. But if that was true, then why is Hulkenberg the one recovering? I thought he couldn't activate it alone. A mutual blow? Could Balsa have noticed the ability's activation and charged in with the TSK-17? No, it's too soon for symptoms to appear. There must be another cause. He then says on the phone, "Can you give me the particulars of Hulkenberg's status?" And the voice on the other end says, "He suddenly felt unwell and collapsed on the spot. He's currently resting in the medical room, and his condition has stabilized." And then Prince Benjamin says, "Well, by the way, was there anybody with him?" And the voice says, "Yes, around a dozen of Hulkenberg's supporters were present and helped care for him. A few of them are staying by his side to look after him." And then the voice on the other line goes, "Ah, wait, Prince Benjamin, the captain of the guard has just arrived and he wishes to speak with you. Just a second." And Prince Benjamin goes, "Okay," and thinks to himself, this is most likely a trap and Hulkenberg's illness is fake. The captain was probably attacked by Hulkenberg and is trying to contact me against his will. In other words, Hulkenberg's ability is a coercive type of manipulation. Concerning Shikaku, Balsamilko said that manipulation abilities work on a first-come, first-served basis. For one-on-one situations, sure, but it's safe to assume that that rule won't apply against a well-conditioned group of powerful nin. Now, what will the captain try to pull on me? Then the other voice on the line, who is Balsamiko, says, "Prince Benjamin, it's Balsamilko Might." And he goes, "Yeah, what happened exactly?" And Benjamin thinks to himself, let's see what they're going to try to do. Then Balsamilko says, "Getting straight to the point, the mission is not yet complete. The trial was postponed to troubles on Hulkenberg's side. Did you notice the rumbling earlier?" Benjamin says, "Of course. A Nin arrow was fired at me, but it missed. Hulkenberg lost consciousness on the spot, likely attempting back-to-back activations, or maybe due to using civilians to power his ability instead of his personal guards." Prince Benjamin says, "I see," and thinks to himself, a plausible explanation, but it's clearly a fake illness to delay the trial. So, in other words, the trial won't be resuming anytime soon, right? And then he thinks to himself again, "Balsamilko, if you return without finishing your mission, I'll consider it a coup d'etat plotted in collusion with Hulkenberg. I will issue special martial law and purge the both of you." Then Balsamiko says, "Right, but I see this as our chance. I would like your permission to meet with Hulkenberg. I assume his supporters will be in the medical room with him, but they shouldn't pose a threat." Benjamin then thinks to himself, "You plan to appear as if you'll carry out the mission in the medical room, while secretly waiting for an opportunity to trap me." He then out loud says, "All decisions on the field are up to you. All I care about is the result." Balsamilko then replies, "I am aware that since Hulkenberg's ability has been used, it's difficult, no, impossible to trust me. Therefore, I won't return until my mission is executed perfectly. Please inform my subordinates of this. I'll report back today with positive results." Benjamin then hangs up the phone and thinks to himself, is he really telling the truth? And then he goes, "No, I mustn't waver. Until I have undeniable proof that the mission is complete, I have to treat him as an enemy." He then yells out for Butch, his soldier, who is this guy right here. And he says, "The rumblings target was Balsamilko. Until we find out the truth of the matter, remain on high alert. If he leaves the Bureau without making contact first, I'll immediately enact the special martial law. Inform the second and third tiers immediately." And Butch says, "Roger that." And then another one of First Prince Benjamin's soldiers, who I don't think we've seen or has a name yet, but I could be wrong. He comes in and says, "Prince Benjamin, Prince Fugetsu and a member of the Justice Bureau have something they wish to hand you personally." So this is leading right up to the moment we saw in chapter 402, where Fugetsu comes in and hands Benjamin the letter. Benjamin says, "Send them through," and he thinks to himself, "I'll need to keep the head of the Justice Bureau on my side for a long time, even after I become king. So I'll use this opportunity to share information and build a good relationship." We then cut to room 01, which is Queen Unma's room. And this is the first time we are actually seeing her in the manga. And we see that she is on the phone with somebody. And she says, "I understand. That's quite all right. No need to worry, sweetheart. That's splendid. How quite like you. I'll back you all the way. It's a shame I won't get to see you at the banquet, but I'm so proud of you, Hulkenberg, my dearest little boy." So this confirms another popular theory that Queen Unma is actually Prince Hulkenberg's mother, and you can see the striking resemblance here. We then cut to Benjamin reading the letter that Fugetsu just handed him, the one supposedly written by Kacho before her death, and it reads, "The first queen is Hulkenberg's real mother. Everyone fears her majesty, but the dead can speak freely. The leading theory I found on a foreign site suggests that to protect Hulkenberg from his brother's assassination attempts, the first queen asked the second queen to be his mother, thus changing the succession order. This war has rendered the succession order meaningless, but if this rumor is true, it could mean the first queen might use her connections to help Hulkenberg win." Benjamin then thinks to himself and says, a simple internet rumor, nothing too surprising. The letter then continues, there are things only the dead can do, and even more so say. So please, look after Fugetsu. Benjamin then out loud says, there's nothing political in this letter. It's just a standard letter from my sister. I see no reason to show you, referring to Kaiser from the Bureau. And this is exactly what we saw him say in chapter 402. Benjamin then thinks to himself, Kacho was clever. I wouldn't be surprised if she set up a plan to help her little sister. That being said, it's likely just a bluff and a shot in the dark. Even assuming the second and third prince's letters do contain some sort of evidence of this, how could a little brat like Kacho have the political influence to dig up information that my team couldn't? We then get access to Kaiser's internal monologue as he's reacting to this. He thinks, I would have liked to question him for information about the succession war or personal details, but having him doubt the Bureau's impartiality even slightly would be catastrophic. It's more than enough that we know how real the threat of martial law has become. We then get a shot of 2nd Prince Camilla, 3rd Prince Zhonglei, 5th Prince Tubepa, and 6th Prince Tyson all reading their letters. We then cut to Melody, Nin Beast Kacho, who I'm just going to refer to as Kacho, and Kaiser discussing in a room. Melody says the only ones who didn't read the letters were the 4th and the 13th Prince, as well as the 9th Prince Hulkenberg, but that's because he was unconscious and is sick right now. And Kacho says, oh man, I really wanted Saradnik to read it, but he refused it. And Kaiser says, yeah, he immediately just said, toss it out, I'm not reading it. And Kacho says, oh well, if even just one of them takes interest in this misinformation, I'm going to consider that a win. Plus, being an information broker may garner Fugetsu some respect. Kaiser then says, placing the marker in Luzurus's chambers is a massive victory in and of itself. And Melody says, well, yeah, but the hard part comes next. We then get a quick panel of Prince Fugetsu lying down in what appears to be a hospital bed recovering, and Melody says, thanks to Basho, she can be left alone without being bothered by the cursed spirits, referring to the haiku that he wrote and gave to her in chapter 402. Melody continues, so I think it's best if we let Fugetsu rest for a little while. Kacho says, agreed. It'd be terrible if we push her too hard and she can't use her power when we need it the most. And Kaiser says, yeah, we should rest as well. And Kacho says, all right, the mission starts tomorrow morning. We then transition to room 1014, which is Kurapika's room, along with Queen Oito and Prince Wobble. And if you recall, at the end of chapter 402, we saw Kurapika reading a letter sent to him from Melody, which contained a ton of information. So we pick up with Kurapika speaking to Queen Oito. He says, it seems that the death penalty is enacted on all who attempt to leave the war. So unfortunately, the ship is a literal kudoku pot. The queen says, then the princes really will have to fight each other till the end. And Kurapika says, it makes sense to think that, since there's a nin ability preventing anyone from leaving the ship. You would think that death is the only way out. However, I see this as a beacon of light. And Queen Oito says, how? And Kurapika says, Queen, in order to save Wobble and the other young princes, I need you to grant me permission to do something. And she says, what is it? We then cut to room 1003, which is 3rd Prince Zhonglei's room, and he's looking down at his desk where he has a bunch of the coins produced by his nin beast, and he says, of all the coins produced by my beast, 7 are in my possession and 3 have been gifted to others. The problem is, a coin that I had that previously had the number 1 on it now has the number 10, and I have no idea what this means. We're completely in the dark. So I'd like to hear everyone's opinions. And we see that he's speaking to a group of his guards. And most of these guards are unnamed, and about 4 of them are about to speak. But since they don't have names, I'm just going to all refer to them as generic guard until, something more important happens. So one of the guards says, well, 1 coin is made each day, and 10 days later, you have 10 coins. Then, once 10 days passed, the coins changed. And Zhongli says, yeah, that's possible. So let's write 10 days ago on the coin that says 10 and make sure to write the date on each new coin. That way, we can confirm this hypothesis within 10 days. Does anyone have any other ideas? Another guard then speaks up and says, we need to check the coins you gifted to other people, not only in order to inform them of the potential change the coins can go through, but to get their permission to monitor the change in their own coins. To put it simply, we need to inform them of the growth rates. Another guard then says, yeah, assuming the coin grows by a factor of 10 every 10 days, then within a month, it'll become 10,000. Zhang Lei says, yeah, I see. After 600 days, we can cast Hocus Pocus. And the guards go, what? What are you talking about? And he goes, never mind. But he thinks to himself, these are all theories I've been over 1,000,000 times. These goons lack the necessary experience for me to help figure this out. So he says, call room 1014. He then thinks to himself, in order to acquire the information on Nin and my beast's ability so I can win this war, I'm going to need somebody like Kurapika. We then cut to the Justice Bureau where we get a conversation between Kaiser and Steiner, both of whom work for the Justice Bureau. They're walking and talking down a hallway. And Kaiser says, it's no problem. Hulkenberg's team informed me of the group fainting ahead of time. We then get a very quick flashback of Hulkenberg saying, after meeting with me, they may appear to be under the effects of hypnotherapy, but that's only because they've been relieved of anxiety and are overcome with joy. They'll be fully conscious again in no time. We then cut back to the hallway conversation. And Kaiser says, the 10 supporters who visited the prince passed out in the waiting room. And just like he said, they were back to normal right away. But Steiner says, yeah, but there's something else that caught my interest. The fact that a staff member passed out in a different time and place, manifesting the exact same symptoms. Kaiser then thinks to himself, it'll be hard to brush this one off as a coincidence. In order to discover Hulkenberg's objective and to form an alliance, it may be best to explain our current situation. But he says out loud, are you sure it wasn't just a coincidence? Where's this staff member now? I'll look into it just in case. And Steiner says, they're in a private room awaiting further tests. Kaiser goes, understood, I'll conduct an interview. Please give me their name and their room number. And Steiner says, it's Wario Bay in room E6. And Kaiser thinks to himself, but for a man who loves all that is fair, what will he think of me? Meeting Hulkenberg knowing so little about his ability is too risky. I'll find out what I can from Wario. We then immediately cut to Kaiser questioning Wario in an interrogation room, and he says, Wario, please tell me exactly what happened. I promise that your beliefs will have no impact on your standing here at the Bureau. We have been able to confirm the use of mysterious powers in this succession war, and Prince Kacho died while trying to escape because of these mysterious powers. It appears as if this ship is surrounded by a barrier that is aware of a person's royal blood. I'm not going to mince any words with you here. Superpowers exist, and the princes are using them as weapons. Now, I'm willing to act outside my role as the Bureau's head of prosecution and back Prince Benjamin in this war, given that he protects Prince Fugetsu. And then he stops because he sees something on Wario's hand that he lifts up. And Wario says, this is a symbol bestowed upon me by the prince. Hulkenberg told me that if you were to speak openly about Nin, that I should show you this. And Kaiser says, the prince predicted that I'd meet with you? And Wario says, yes, it's only natural that he would be suspected after the mass fainting. For you not to meet him directly implies you're being cautious, which means you're aware of Nin. Kaiser says, that's spot on. And then Wario says, the 9th Prince Hulkenberg will soon perish. We then cut to first Prince Benjamin on the phone with Balsam, and Prince Benjamin says, are you sure? And Balsam says, yes, I've completed the mission. I'll show you absolute proof of my success tonight, as we planned. We then cut to what looks like a hospital bed that Prince Hulkenberg is lying in unconscious, surrounded by a bunch of people, and in the back of the room, we see Kaiser walk in. We then cut back to Kurapika and Queen Oito, where Queen Oito says, you want to publish the letter? And Kurapika says, yes. I'll begin the second round of Nin training tomorrow, and same as before, I'll send an open invitation to each prince. But this time, I'll add that I'll be divulging the contents of the letter. But only your letter, of course, not my letter. And Oito goes, if you think that's necessary, sure, but why? And Kurapika says 3 reasons. First, to avoid any unnecessary suspicion. The older princes' crimes and rumors were revealed to one another, so they must be wondering if the younger princes have also been made privy to that information. We'll squash those concerns. Secondly, I hope to slow down this war, even just slightly, by sharing Prince Kacho's feelings. And thirdly, I hope that being the first to go public will put me into contact with some of the older princes. Odds are, they'll come empty-handed to this exchange, but depending on who they send and with what, they may attempt to postpone or cancel the letter's publication by bargaining. And then the chapter ends with a final panel of Kurapika, Oito, and Wobble approaching 3rd Prince Zhang Lei's room, and the editor's note says, Kurapika reveals the letter. And that's chapter 403, y'all. Gosh, I am loving this arc. Please let me know all of your thoughts, theories, and questions down below. I will, of course, be sharing mine in other videos as we go throughout the week, so be sure to follow and subscribe so you don't miss those. And thank you guys so much for watching.